It's not the person on the phone, is it?
Eventually, they need to be here in person. Or somebody has to be here in person.
All right. I'm calling this meeting of the Zoning and Planning Board of Appeals to order. Members include myself, Noel Halverson here, Joshua.
Here.
Stephen.
Here.
Brian. Here. All right. Do we have anybody online? We don't have any alternates online or anything today?
No, we do not.
Great. I would entertain an approval of the agenda for today's meeting.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from the Tuesday, June 17th, 2025 meeting.
I so move.
And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Now, if we don't have our first petitioner here, I think we'll just skip to the second item. We'll grab them when they come in. All right, and before we begin, folks, I've got to read to you the Zoning and Planning Board of Appeals. Here's an act on appeals for variances from city zoning code requirements. The members of this board are appointed, and the board acts as a quasi-judicial body during these appeals, which means that appeals might be presented somewhat like a case is presented in court, and the board acts as a judge and determines whether to grant the appeal by a simple majority vote. For each item, we will hear from the applicant or the petitioner and staff, as well as any additional witnesses where appropriate. If you are the petitioner for an item, when your item is called, please take a seat at the table with us, and we'll begin. Furthermore, it is the goal of the Board of Appeals to provide and conduct a hearing that is fair in form, appearance, and substance. To ensure that this hearing satisfies these goals, each member of the board, please confirm the following for this appeal, and I'm not talking about number 1, I'm talking about number 2 here, Appeal 25-16. Consideration with possible action on a variance request from Larry Hamill, applicant and property owner requesting to exceed driveway setback standards for a parking stall alongside a garage for a 1 or 2 family residential driveway at 232 North Locust Street. Please, if you are able, confirm the following for this appeal by stating I confirm. I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
And I confirm. I have not received any communication from any person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
And I confirm. Great. Okay, so if you're the petitioner for this item, please join us at the table here. And before we hear from you, we'll hear from staff. We'll set things up. So, John, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Please inform us about this request.
All right, so with this application, applicant is seeking one variance. Section 44-1747, sub 3, sub C. One uncovered parking space is permitted in the side yard alongside a garage, provided said space is not located between the building and the street, is set back from the side and rear yard lot lines by no fewer than 2.5 feet. So keep in mind, a legal parking stall is 8 feet in width. Total space requires 10.5 feet to have the 2.5 plus 8 feet. The applicant is seeking 10 inches between the drive and the property line rather than the full 2.5 feet to achieve an 8-foot wide parking stall. This is a parcel over on North Locust. This is a photo of the driveway. The driveway has been poured before an application was fully reviewed and then a permit issued on the site. What you'll see here is some pavement that has gone over towards the side yard line on the northern part of the property, as well as some additional pavements back over here on the southern part of the property. We are not looking at the southern part of the property because in discussions with the applicants, those areas have been resolved. So this is a view from the street back in August 2019, where you can see there were some legal non-conforming pavers that were on the property, not quite to the fence line, but they were there, and that expansion back this way did not occur. So this is what the applicant is requesting to have. They're looking to have a driveway that would be 8 inches from the property line, and they have not poured alongside the driveway yet, but to pour an additional 24 feet past the driveway, some 8 feet wide. as you are towards the northwest corner of the home, the house itself is not completely parallel with the road. That seems to be the case on that street where there's a bit of an angle compared to the road. So the road itself, the building itself is closer to the property line at the western portion of the building, the area closer towards the road, than it is back towards the rear of the property, where it becomes about 10 foot 6 inches, or the required 8 feet, and then a 2.5 foot buffer alongside that. So, some background on this. The applicant did come to City Hall during the week of May 19th with an application, but lacked dimensions and did not meet all the aspects of the zoning code. The applicant requested a permit be approved by the next day, but our office staff informed the applicant that this turnaround time is unrealistic. The applicant was replacing expanding concrete for vehicles in the front yard and the patio space leading to the front door. The following week, on May 28th, Inspector Matt Bablish reviewed the application and visited the property to witness that construction had already occurred. The new construction included an expansion of the driveway to approximately 8 inches from the northern center line, as well as the front patio and southern part of the driveway expanding 7 feet past the southernmost garage door opening. A conditional permit was then issued. You're seeing part of what Inspector Bablish put out, noting that no work be permitted in the right-of-way. That did not happen. That expansion is not permitted, that has to be removed, and that perennial grass be put in place, and the expansion not permitted along the southern portion of the driveway to the larger expansion back down this way. So with that in mind, there were discussions that were happening between myself and the applicant as far as what to do to get into compliance. I'll go show right now. As noted, the applicant did remove part of that driveway then later on. And they did put in a structure that would reduce the size of the walkway to where it would not be the size of a drive aisle, but it could be the size of a walkway, and that meets the code then. So what comes into play is what's happening back over this way on the property. So looking at what the applicant is trying to do, they want to have a driveway with a triangle taper that would be approximately 39 feet in length going to the garage door, adding an extra 24 feet and having that entire driveway be 8 inches off the property line that entire time. As part of what their explanation as to why they felt it was appropriate, they did provide some addresses which have some odd driveways that were put down in the past. These 3 photos are from the 1700 and 1800 block of Bond, which is approximately 1¼ miles away from the house. There's some other photos that were provided along Division and Locust Street, closer to the property. When looking back at some of these properties, it appears as though many of them were built before 2007, which is our cutoff date for legal grandfather status. It was built before them. There is one of the properties up here that was done between 2016 and now that I believe I would have had a different interpretation as to what was approved back at that time, but nonetheless, they're all legal that were placed out this way, either legal or legal non-conforming. And that was what the applicant wanted to note as evidence to this matter. And then as noted by the applicants, they made some adjustments to not have additional variance requests for the already poured property where they removed some of the concrete that was put in place, but they are requesting to keep what has already been poured and then pour additional 24 feet past the garage door opening to get into compliance with the code that allows for the one uncovered parking stall as long as it's behind, or sorry, to the side of a garage. And then you have your driveway leading to said stall at that point. But you need to have an appropriate amount of space, and this property is off by that 1 foot 7 inches.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? All right, we'll move on to hear from our petitioner. Sir, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Please tell us, as we need to consider various criteria for granting a variance, why that should be so.
I'm surrounded me. I've lived there at the house for 7 years. When we put the concrete in, I had three contractors the last 3 years, and I've been trying to do this for 3 years. And every one of the contractors told me that, I needed to have the 1 foot setback from the property line. Only after I came in here and talked to everybody, after I was told that I was in violation, did I find out differently. So contractors, 3 different contractors told me, I guess what they thought I wanted to hear, which is causing me major problems for me. The part alongside the garage was part of the original plan, but at the point of, on the 28th, when I was told that, I couldn't do what I had done, all 3 contractors also told me that it's existing concrete, it's not an issue, there's gonna be no problem getting the permit, we're gonna, that I would not have an issue getting the permit. Okay. On the 28th, I found out, which was the day the last of the concrete was poured, and I've never dealt with a permit before. So I've lived around the world, but I've never really built anything in a city. I've always lived out in the country. From up in Michigan, and permits are, you don't need one. So this is all new to me, and I'm not saying that that's an excuse. I'm just saying it's new. When I got the permit for the fence, I had an answer the same day, and that's what I was expecting. I put it in on Friday. I was expecting to have an answer on Monday. I didn't get an answer for 9 days later. Well, the contractor was right there, was doing the work on 2 other streets, 2 other driveways down the street. So to me, it made sense to get it while he was there. Like I said, I'm not unfamiliar with the permit process. That I had to have everything squared away before I started work. Matter of fact, I was told by the contractor that, don't worry about it, you're replacing existing. It's a done deal. The thing alongside the garage was part 2 of this, because part 1 was extremely expensive for me. And I just, I thought, well, later on this year, I'll put in the permit to get, my parking space along the garage. I want the parking space for, I have an old Jeep, an 86 Jeep that I take to car shows and stuff. Right now, I can't park it at my place. It's parked up north with my brother. So that's like I said, that was always part of my plan, was to put that in. When I was told, can't do this, can't do that, and that's when we started digging into it and finding out that I've been lied to by all 3 contractors, because nothing was. I didn't know until Matt sat me down and said, here's the regulation, here's what you can and can't do, and so I've been not sleeping at night, I'll be honest with you, because this is a lot of money, and it's not a money thing, it's just, I thought I was doing the right thing. I don't know, I thought I was doing the right thing. And, I was fully prepared to, this fall, have the rest of the concrete poured. So that's where we're at. The property is, the house is at an angle, which is weird, but all the houses are. I don't know if they resurveyed them after they were put in or what, but when I looked at the house to buy it, I thought I had 8 feet on both sides. But if you look at the other side of my house, the eave on the back corner is actually drops on the property line. Because the dad owned all that property at one point. He owned the farmhouse. So, I'm thinking I had 8 feet. When you put the fence in, I discovered I had inches, not 8 feet. But I thought 8 feet on the other side was, I have 8 feet, 10 inches to the property line from the corner garage, so I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. Because I was told that it had to be a minimum of 8 by 15 feet for the parking area. I didn't know about the mandatory setback. Because my wife and I ride around the area all the time, you know, that's what we do. We get to walk around, we ride our bikes, and I've seen all these other houses that had 0 setback. Well, unknown to me, they either applied for a variance or they just didn't apply at all, and they just put concrete. So I'm looking at what everybody else has got, and I'm like, okay, you know, that would be awesome if I could have that. So that's why I'm here. That's what I'm trying to get is it's 10 inches in the front, and at the back, it's at 8 foot 10 inches at the front of the garage to the property line. And it's 10 feet 8 inches at the back of the house to the property line. That's how angled it is set in. I don't know what else to tell you. If you got questions, I guess
Right, questions? Any questions for our petitioner?
So we're basically just concerning ourselves with the side piece on the garage
yes.
or the existing concrete?
So the concrete that's been poured, as you see right here,
Yeah,
is 8 inches off of the property line
on that side?
on that side.
Okay,
Now, this is not legal without having this lead to a legal parking stall.
right,
So you have to have the 8 foot wide alongside the parking stall, or the garage, and then 2.5 feet for a buffer.
right,
The garage itself is some 8 foot 10 inches from property line,
okay.
leaving
At its closest.
at its closest point, yes, correct. And the way it's been poured right now, to my understanding, is this driveway is approximately 8 inches from the property line in the manner that's been poured, according to the site plan that's been poured. So that would mean that the driveway would be 1 foot 7 inches closer to the, 1.7 inches closer to the property line than what's permitted.
And if you got a variance for that, then you'd be able, the other concrete would be okay?
If it was poured, then, that would need to be poured,
Right,
but if, the other concrete, as long, that's presuming that has a variance as well, because it's not, it's too
Right.
far away.
right, okay.
But it's the same variance, in both cases, it's asking to have the side yard line less than the minimum requirement of 2.5 foot offset.
Okay. And, sir, what did you say the offset was between the angle? Like how wide it is at the front and how wide it
Okay,
is at the back?
it's 8 feet 10 inches at the front of
Okay.
the garage, and it's 10 feet 8 inches at the back of the garage.
So you're gonna give you the wide part in the front?
Well, on the other side of the house.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
That's why I said, when we moved there, I looked between the house, I'm like, okay, we got 4 feet on here, we got 8 feet here.
Yeah, it's not something you could really eyeball, I don't think, but, yeah, okay.
And so, John, the back end of this, if this driveway parking spot extended to the back of the garage and was only 8 feet wide, the setback at the back of the driveway would meet the requirements of 2.5 feet.
Yes.
Only at the back itself, yes.
Yeah, so it has a transition, or, well, I don't know, at one point it becomes legal, but we need a
At
variance.
the
for
far
that.
end of it, it does.
Yeah.
It is, I'd say, difficult to tell on these photos that there is a bit of an angle. I'll attest from going out there and in a former life doing survey work, it's noticeable that the buildings have a bit of a skew, not just his, but other ones in that neighborhood. I don't know why, this is just plotted wrong back in the 50s a bit, but they're not fully parallel to the property line.
It looks like the street is at an angle relative to the grid line of the parcels and not
Yeah.
orthogonal to the line of the street to the
Yes.
east there, so
Yeah.
something's goofy, but, all right. If there are no further questions for staff or the petitioner, then we can deliberate here. Any last questions from anybody? All right. Thoughts on this, gentlemen?
I guess we deal with these concrete issues all the time. I think these
concrete contractors are the wild, wild west of the contracting world.
Yeah.
No offense to anybody here who may be a contractor. I'm drawn first to the exceptional circumstances and focusing on whether there are exceptional circumstances or conditions that apply to the lot. And not too long ago, we talked about something very similar to this, where a house was, for one reason or another, shifted inconveniently to one side of the lot. And I'm kind of looking at that in the same way for this, where this lot isn't so different from anything else in the neighborhood. In fact, it seems to be an average-sized lot in this district, in this neighborhood. It's unfortunate that the house is angled, but I don't think that there's anything exceptional with regard to the lot. So that's the hardest piece I'm having a hard time getting over right now.
If I could address that a little bit, one of the things, I was thinking about that too, because we did have that one a couple weeks ago. To me, this is a different circumstance, because the other one, the house was shifted inconveniently over, but that was obvious when you bought the house. I mean, it was close, and when you bought the house, you could stand at the road, look at it, and see it sharp on that side. This one, I'm not sure an untrained eye can tell that that's on an angle from the road. If you're not into property and you're not into, zoning and housing and surveying. I don't know that that's necessarily something you'd realize that it varies by, 2 feet, 2.5 feet across the length of it. I mean, maybe some people would have spotted it, but in this case, I think the fact that the road is kittywampus to the houses is a little strange. And it's, in this particular case, it looks to me like this is something that would be fairly reasonable. And, normally I don't like to approve these if they're not right, but I do think this is a little bit exceptional because, eyeballing it, it looked a lot like that was very possible there. That's just my thought about it. I just think that it's a little bit more exceptional simply because it's not something you could easily observe.
Yeah. I struggle with I'm looking at the lot more than the orientation of the house on the lot.
Why?
Because when I look at, and maybe my factor here, maybe my cheat sheet that I printed off isn't accurate, but looking at exceptional circumstances that apply to the lot, not to the orientation of the house.
Well, or to the intended use.
But we're not here on the use ordinance.
But it is about the use. It's about the use of that space next to the garage.
Apply to the lot intended use that do not generally apply to other properties and uses in the same district. I mean, I think everybody on that street seems to have that same problem.
Right, but not necessarily the next block over, right? I'm struck by the fact that a driveway or parking spot paralleling the garage is in compliance at some portion of its length and out of compliance at others. To me, that's weird. And so I
don't disagree that it's weird.
Yeah, and for me, that's kind of clearing the exceptional circumstance threshold. So, that's kind of that's just where I'm at.
Yeah.
And then looking at the other tests of preservation of intent or rights, I think that's, that those are given, this is something that you're allowed to do, right? If you can park alongside your garage, that's permitted. And I'm not sure that there's any detriment here, particularly with, the fencing that's already in place.
Yeah, that's
So-
right, there's a fence all the way down, isn't there? Yeah.
And likewise, the
There's a wooden
hardship.
fence on the property line all the way around the back part of the house.
I got the picture.
And I would comment too, on the hardship aspect, I mean, we do have, some word from the petitioner that there's an economic consideration here, but they're not asking for the variance just because of that. And I think that the difficulty in complying is really the angle of the house relative to the property line is what's making this a difficult ask. So, I think it meets that test as well.
I'm willing to give a run through it for positive if you like.
Go for it.
John, can I have the things up? Thank you. He's got it. I always forget to bring mine. So, preservation of intent would not be inconsistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulations of the district in which it was requested. I don't think it would be. You know, and those houses are a little bit closer together. I don't think it would be inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood or the purpose of the zoning law. The exceptional circumstances, in my opinion, I feel that the exceptional circumstance here is the fact that the house is kitty wampus on the lot, and that he could have part of a driveway that would be, you know, inside code, and then part that wouldn't be on the same slab. It is a little strange, and I consider that exceptional. Preservation of property rights, you know, to me, this is, you know, enjoyment of the same substantial property rights possessed by others. I think that one's self-evident. Absence of detriment, I don't see how this is going to create any problems with the neighbors. We didn't have anybody, we didn't have any commentary from
No.
anyone?
No,
Okay.
not for this.
Okay. You know, no one said anything about it. To me, I don't see any substantial detriment or harm to public interest in this. And in hardship, I don't necessarily believe this is self-imposed, and the applicant already said it's not about the money, so it's not economic. I would motion in favor of approving this variance.
Is there a second? Second? I'll second it. Is there any further discussion?
I guess just for purposes of the record, I would note very briefly, I have some ancillary concerns about an absence of detriment. I think that's the reason why we have the setback ordinances, is to prevent one property from interfering with the neighboring property to that 6 or 8 inches from an impervious surface right near the property line. And I think there is some degree of a self-imposed hardship here in that there seems to be ample parking on the lot, maybe not everything that the applicant is looking for, but I think there's ample parking, but just for purposes of the record, that I just want to make those issues clear.
Thanks, Josh. Is there any other discussion? All right, if not, I will call the question. We have a motion to approve the variance as requested. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Hey,
We got 2 ayes and 2 nays, so that does not pass.
Correct.
Is there any other action on this item?
No, I'm sorry.
John, what do we do? We
Motion's denied to that point. You need to have affirm with the majority. There's a majority that's approved it.
So if we make a motion to deny, though, and it goes along the same lines, then we're going to be hung as well?
No, but for the affirming, you have to have you need to have a majority.
Yes.
Yeah, it automatically.
So
if we don't achieve
it's a
it-
denial in the fact that the affirmative didn't pass?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so where does that leave me?
So that means that there were orders to remove the driveway to put into alignment, being 2 feet past the garage door opening. That's what would be followed up with by the inspection department.
Okay, so you just cost me $20,000 in concrete, saying I can't have what everybody else in my neighborhood already has. Because I did the right thing and I requested a permit. And I went through all the stuff that is supposed to be done.
Yeah, but you poured before you got that permit, and that's an issue that you can't put on us, sir.
And I explained why that happened.
That's still not something that you can put on this body here. This body is considering whether or not there's sufficient cause to grant a variance. We evaluated it. Some members thought it was there, others did not. We took a vote on it, and we've got to stand on that vote. I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, I mean, we do have sympathy. I mean,
Absolutely.
You're not the first person who's come in here and said, my contractor lied to me.
yeah.
It happens almost every week.
Honestly, I've been on this committee or board since March, and it is 75% of what I've seen, and it does break my heart to do it, but
Yeah.
We are restricted by that. We can't come to an agreement on all of those conditions. we can't grant you the variance, even if we sympathize with your position.
All right, we need to move on. Do we have our petitioner here for item 1?
No, and that petitioner cannot make it and is asking for the item to be moved to next month.
I would entertain a motion to table regular business E1 until our next meeting.
So motion?
I'll second.
Motion and a second to table E1 until our next regular meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, appeal E3, Appeal 25-17, consideration with possible action on a variance request from Steve Collin, applicant, and Sandy Ewald, property owner, requesting to exceed driveway width standards in the front yard and driveway opening for a 1- or 2-family residential driveway at 2815 Nicolay Drive. Would the petitioner please join us at the table? And just a reminder, folks, in our desire to be fair in form and appearance, please confirm the following for this appeal by stating, "I confirm I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter."
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm. I have not received any communication from any person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
And I confirm. And as with other items, we'll hear from city staff first. So, John, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
So we're looking at 2 sections of code here for this item, section 44-1746. Driveways shall lead to the public right of way directly to a garage door opening plus 24 inches on either side of said door to a legal parking space. And then 44-1746, sub 3, sub A, driveway width. Driveways leading to garages are limited to a maximum width of 25 feet at the property line and 30 feet at the curb pavement line. So the applicant seeking to create a driveway, which is approximately 21 feet wider than what is permitted between legal parking spaces on this property, and then also seeking to create an opening that Nicolay Drive and the property line, which is 53 feet in width. So this is a site plan of the property, which I'll get to here in a moment. This is a parcel itself located along the bay. We're seeing an aerial photo here from 2023. Want to give some perspective as far as what this has meant, what the property has been over the course of time. So this is a photo on top from 2022, and then one in 2013. You'll notice the building was torn down, the primary and principal building was torn down between 13 and 22, and a new one was placed up then. Back up to the north, on the right part of this photo, is a detached garage, which is pretty close to the property line, both the side and the front line. It is a legal non-conforming garage, but it is legal. It's been in place since at least 2000, so it's a legal garage on site. Additionally, wanted to do a closer zoom in of what this is on the property nowadays. So what we're seeing here is a driveway. You're seeing concrete that was poured back over this way, leading directly to the garage. And then back this way is blacktop. And that blacktop goes quite a bit into the Nicolay Drive right-of-way itself. And so in the past month or so, there was a notice that some construction had begun on this site to replace some of the existing blacktop on the property that was going into, so not the concrete that recently poured with that home expansion, but that blacktop that's there. And so the applicant is seeking to replace what is existing on the site as far as blacktop that leads to the garage, that's the accessory garage on the north side, and then an area between the two, both the attached garage and the detached accessory garage, as well as the driveway opening back over to Nicolay Drive at the roadway itself. And so what comes into play here with this is looking to make it be 53 feet of expansion right here, then going back up to the property itself at 37 foot 4 inches to get to the garage, sneaking around the southeast corner of the garage, and then going back towards the existing driveway itself, utilizing the blacktop space that is there. So that comes into question, the two parts of this as far as the driveway being wider than what is allowed, 25 feet in total, 30 at Nicolay Drive. And then this area here. I'm going to note, because this is a legal driveway, sorry, a legal garage, driveways are allowed to go to that legal garage. But typically speaking, those are set back somewhere else in the property. You have space to, if you will, imagine if the garage was back here somewhere. You could put a driveway that goes back up this way. In this case, where the garage is located, approximately some 6 feet or so off the property line, there is no space for a legal driveway to come off of this one without going back in the right-of-way itself to snake off of it. So it's a catch-22 in this regard that, one of the possibilities that could happen here is you could just have a drive leading directly from Nicolay right here, and then having a space where it is seeded and grassed in between, and have a second driveway back this way. But that comes into competition with another part of the code that says you can only have 2 driveways on a parcel. You can't have multiple driveways. So it's established we have a legal garage because it's a grandfathered, legal non-conforming garage. It's accessory back in the northeast corner of the property, and you have the house that is back over to the south. So no matter what, there will be a question happening here of some sort of variance request with replacing pavement on this property. But their request is to still keep this portion that extends beyond the garage in front of the home and have the driveway one singular driveway at 53 feet in width at both the property line and at the street itself.
I think I misheard you earlier. You said the code says they can only have 2 driveways?
Code says you can have 1 driveway for,
One driveway.
now,
Okay.
there are exceptions. We have circular drives. You do see a Nicolay Drive.
Yep.
It can occur, but the way the garage is set up here, it's not possible to have that happen. There's not enough space for it in the context of where the garage is placed. So yes, usually 1 unit equals 1 driveway. If you had a duplex, you'd have 2 driveways. But all legal parking stalls are allowed to have a drive accessing it, and that garage is the accessory garage, is a legal non-conforming garage. So we're noting with this is the approximately 21 feet wider. That's taking into account 2 feet past the garage door opening on this garage, the accessory, and 2 feet past the principal structure's attached garage. That area right here ends up being about 21 feet, which you're kind of seeing here with a trailer and a vehicle parked in that space. It's about the width of what you'd see normally for 21 feet.
Am I allowed to say anything?
Not yet.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? So, John, this is a little strange in that it looks like the area between the actual road surface and the end of the right-of-way is pretty deep, and it looks like other places use that area for parking along Nicolay Drive here.
Yeah, this is not a common apron compared to a typical urbanized section of road.
Other questions for staff? All right, let's turn to our petitioner. Would you all please give your name and address for the record? And then also, do you affirm or swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Sandra Ewald, and yes.
Okay, great.
2815 Nicolay.
I'm Steve Collin, owner of Greenway Masonry, 1625 Maple Ridge Circle, Sabisky, Wisconsin.
Tony Hernandez, 2625 Humboldt.
Great. Tell us about the situation that you're in and why you believe we should grant a variance.
Sure. Can you bring that picture up again that you had a little?
I just want to note, there were 3 letters of support that were for this property as well. I did not get to that, I apologize.
Oh, sorry.
These were put forth today via mail. I'm going to just read them real quickly to everybody. I'll get past the typical part here as far as stating that this statement is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. All 3 have these notations. The driveway being replaced was the same size as the new driveway is currently staked out. I have lived in my current address for over 40 years, which is adjacent to Sandra Ewald's property. The driveway is always run the width of the attached garage, and since detached garage, it would likely be unattractive to force another solution between the two garages, as that pathway is necessary to access the lower level and the backyard in some instances. The old driveway is in terrible condition and an eyesore to the neighborhood. The concrete laid to date is a huge improvement. Kathy Hillenberg, 2803 Nicolay Drive. I'm the neighbor directly to the north on Nicolay Drive. Her partially completed project simply replaces the driveway that is in place. For as long as I have lived at this address, the driveway connects the attached and detached garages. The space in between the garages is not excessive and allows for my landscaping service to access both our backyards for ongoing maintenance. In addition, the prior driveway was in terrible disrepair for years with cracks and crumbling from which many weeds emerged. The concrete driveway is of high quality as others that are on Nicolay Drive nearby. And finally, a third letter that came in from Michael J. Conley at 2816 Nicolay Drive, dated July 17th. Noted, for the record, I am completely in support of granting this variance request. The improvement of Sandy Ewald's driveway will beautify her home and the surrounding properties. I do not understand any downside to this project and support her receiving the variance and completing her project with no further delays. Now I'll go, Sandy, to your site plan, unless you want me to go to a different photo instead.
That's a weird one for me to look at, but I was just going to kind of explain how Ursula brought up the issue of getting, maybe one of the photograph ones. So as we look between the space between the old garage and the new one, the only way to access the backyard is to go straight through here. And if you were to break this in half, and you can't really see it here, but about half of this is, the only way down there is to go down this hill. So this is how Ursula's, my next door neighbor's lawn service gets down, as does mine. And they go down and they take care of the backyard. There's no other way to get down to the backyard. So, you know, if we put grass in there or something, they're gonna have to drive over the grass or whatever is there to get down that hill. Over here, the other half of that is, I don't care so much about, to just be honest. So there's like a little pile of gravel over here, and then there's just like a 10-foot wall that falls into, I'll call it a brick cube below. And I'm not sure what that was used for in the old house, but you know, you couldn't even drive down there if you wanted to because there's a big wall that just falls down, and then it's all wooded behind it. But you know, being able to access the backyard, there's nowhere to access it on this side, so it's important that we're able to access the backyard coming through here in some way. And obviously we want to be able to use this garage. And the car that was in the picture parked out here, we want to put in that garage, but obviously we can't right now. There was a bunch of stuff going out. You know, the neighbors were expressing concern at the ugliness of what was coming out of my driveway. I know ignorance is not an excuse. I didn't know that there was anything to do with, we were just replacing a driveway with the same driveway. So it never occurred to me that I had to do something special. I just called this fella and hired him to put in a nicer driveway.
And it's not yet poured, correct?
Part of it is poured. And I think, didn't you say you contacted the city for some reason?
Well, actually, we had the city stop by and took a look at it after we made the first pour, was 9.5 yards, I believe. And somebody stopped by to take a look at it, so we had to stop the project we were starting because it wasn't something we were supposed to be doing. Now, I've been pouring concrete for over 40 years in Green Bay, and nobody's ever stopped us or told us that you can't pour. One of the things was supposed to go to building permit. And I was always told, obviously, you got to put a building or have a building permit, which I guess isn't true. But anyway, we took on the project, we tore out the blacktop. The blacktop was in bad shape. There was even a spot where there's a water pipe, I think this is how it all got started. There's a water pipe from the city that was rusted away and fell over in the yard. And it was a big piece of blacktop was cut out for that. It looks like it had been there for years because there was weeds stuff growing up. So I said, let's call the city and get them in here and let's get a new water pipe on, built on. And that's kind of what got this whole thing started. But the other thing we didn't know was when you go up and down Nicolay Avenue, if you look at the city plan sites, the aprons can be anywhere from 4 feet to 35 feet. And it's all up and down Nicolay Avenue the whole way. There are no aprons on Nicolay. There are no, what was I thinking of? Yeah, no sidewalks also, because one of the things was talking to me, we got to put a sidewalk in there, and there's no sidewalks out there at all. So, but we didn't know, when we went out there and took a look at it, it just is like any other property. Like I say, we've always do the same thing. What's bad, we tear out and replace, and we're not going outside the footprint that was already there, we're staying within that footprint. We're just, like I say, we were told to stop because of that, and that's what we did, and here we are.
You need to know.
Yeah, and we got the permit since,
Yeah.
but we didn't.
I think the space between the two sections is maybe like 5 feet. So, like, from the one driveway, and then the other driveway would be like a 5-foot section. It would be just gravel or grass, whatever we put in there. And that would, there's a trailer sitting right where that would be. I mean, that would,
We've got it all drains, it all runs the way it's supposed to, so it's not stuck in the yard. You know, there is a ditch that actually runs through, and you can follow, everything's drained off to that ditch that we've done so far. So. As far as the old blacktop too, if you look at other pictures and stuff, the old blacktop was busted up and falling apart. It wasn't safe to walk on, I don't think, but, you know, that's why we were called to replace it.
Questions for petitioners? Anyone? Anything else you'd care to add before we deliberate?
I think, like I said, I've already emphasized I need some way to get down into the yard.
Sure. All right, gentlemen?
If you don't mind, I'll take the first crack.
Please.
This one kind of actually reminds me a little bit of the, I hate to talk about old things, but I try to be consistent with what we've done. The duplex down on Oneida, over near Lambeau, where, on a technical basis, we could have had these folks put a 2-foot landscaping buffer in between those two driveways, but as a practical matter, it didn't make sense. So I'm kind of looking at this in that similar vein. I don't, as far as preservation of intent, I don't know that a variance in this particular case is inconsistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulations. And bleeding right into the exceptional circumstances, this is an unusual lot in that there's already a legal non-conforming use, and this applicant is entitled to access the attached garage as well as the detached garage. That for me is the unusual circumstance or conditions on this lot that allow us to move forward. I think that, darned if you do, darned if you don't. If we don't grant the application here and say you need to pour 2 separate driveways, or we can't do that, she can't do that either. So then she's denied the ability to enjoy the same substantial property rights that anybody else with a legal garage on the property has, which is access to the garage from the roadway. And I apologize for skipping over, but so many of these in this particular one are bleeding right into the next. I don't know if there's any detriment to adjacent property owners. In fact, we've got letters of support from what appear to be every adjacent property owner. And I don't know that the difficulty and that the hardship is self-imposed or based solely on economic grounds. This situation was created by a predecessor owner, and I believe that this applicant is entitled to continue to enjoy those the same benefits that existed there. For those reasons, I would move to approve the variance.
I would also say that the neighborhood you're in, and you noted all those different driveways up and down, Nicolay is a wash with non-conforming legal and things that have been approved by this board because the lots are also either too close to the road or they're shaped strange or doesn't surprise me that there's that many variances down there. We do a lot of variances for Nicolay. Because of the way it was brought together. I would second the approval. I don't see any detriment here. I don't think that the access to the backyard is really that much of a concern, but I also don't think it's not gonna be any different. If they have to drive over grass or drive over concrete, they do it either way. I can't get into my backyard either. But I don't have any room. But, you know, I think this is the way it was
Just
before.
digging up the grass, you know, with a
Yeah,
big
yeah,
tractor.
well, I mean, one would assume that they're mostly going in there to cut the grass.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would second that motion to approve the variance as asked.
Okay, we've got a motion by Josh, a second by Stephen to approve the variance as requested. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carried.
I just want to note to the contractors, make certain you get your permit approval to work in the public right-of-way from Department of Public Works. Now that you have a variance, the driveway can be expanded further, but they need to have that, they need to have their actual application for the work in the right-of-way. Okay?
Please, for the love of God, tell all your concrete buddies, it doesn't matter if it was there before or not, get a permit, because
Thank you for being here.
I can't tell you how many people we've had to disappoint, and it tears us apart, because we're not, everybody on this board, we don't work for the city, we're just citizen volunteers.
So I'll tell you, the weird thing was 41 years ago, I had my license up here. But when we got a license back then, we had to sit down and take a test.
Yeah.
And I got, I believe, the next room over, but it was not a renewable license. It was something that I've been doing all these years, we had no idea what was wrong. You know, and all of a sudden we stopped by this and we were like, whoa, we had no idea.
Yeah, and I'm not claiming anybody did anything bad or wrong, it just,
Yeah.
we end up in these situations where we have to talk to people, and then we have to tell good people we're trying to do the right thing, no.
Right.
Because we can't fulfill the requirements. And if we can't fulfill those requirements that were up there, we can't say yes. And that's because we're quasi-judicial. The decisions of this board can only be challenged in circuit court. So we have to follow those rules, and it's been made very clear to us by city legal and by, you know, and by staff that that's how we need to operate the board. And it's just, you know, like I said, talk to all your contractors, and some of this, even a whiff that they think they might need a permit, they need a permit, get a permit.
Well, I actually talked to 3 of them, and all 3 of us that we were talking about, they had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they all work in Green Bay every day.
And you know, you're also not the first contractor says you don't know either.
Right.
And I don't know where the breakdown in communication is. It's, you know, it's clearly the city, but there's also nothing that we as a board can do about that.
Except move on to our next agenda item.
That's right.
All right, well,
Thank
thank
you.
you for your time.
Thank you. Informational F, our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 18th, 2025. And there being no further business before us, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So motion.
I second.
Okay? All those in favor say aye.
Bye.
Oh, you supported something.
The first one is for that.
Yeah.
I watched the Clue